So Troy, can I come to you first? So Troy, why do we need Black History Month in football?
No matter what panel I'm on, no matter how deep the panel is, I'm always the one that has to answer the first question. And it's a tough question. It's not an easy question, Anwar, because I've not really been a supporter of Black History Month. So I don't know if I'm going against the grain here or what, but I had 15 years in the educational system as well. So I used to deliver PE and witness and see the lack of Black history, I'll say, that was taught in primary schools, and the lack of awareness around, the Black culture, Black experience. And I've got to say, stepping into football at the level that I have done now, so away from having a tracksuit on, I kind of see it very similar, very much the same. And if you want me to be totally honest, because honesty, I think, is the theme of the night, I've not really been engaged in anything to do with Black history, because I've almost felt that it's tokenism far too much within the game. But I've got to be honest, this month, particularly because the period of time we're in, particularly because of obviously, Black Lives Matter and the controversy, I'm going to put it out there, the controversy around that, I felt this is the most important Black History Month that I've known in football. It's been going since '87. And I've put myself out there to do and be on so many of these webinars, particularly obviously because now they're virtual. So I can sit at home, I've got a cup of tea with a little bit of spirit in it and everything like that. So I can be at home and just help educate and help support so many different people. Why is this one so important? Because of everything that's going on in the outside world at the moment. Yes, we're in the midst of uncertainty with COVID-19, but we're still in the midst of, I think the lack of appreciation around the history of Black people within football, from a playing side of it, from a working in the game side of it, from an absolute fan experience side of it. And hopefully this month, and I know we're getting into the last week, has been a kind of educational piece for us all, to be totally honest. So I've done stuff for the FA. I'm doing stuff tonight. I've done stuff for organisations that are not involved in football, and kind of shocked them a little bit with presenting stats. And I know it's supposed to be about a celebration, but sometimes if you cannot tell the story of the past, you can't get to the future. And I've just been, to be fair, I've been overwhelmed with some of the responses, some of the conversations that are going on, a lot of the stuff that organisations are putting on. And I just hope that, I think October the 31st is on Sunday, I just hope it's not left at the door. I just hope that there's a continuation. I'm not saying that it has to consume everyone's thought process, but I hope it's not left at the door. And I hope we continue to have the kind of conversations that we have had over the past month, and drive those into seeing change for the future, because this is, ultimately part of change.
I totally agree with you, because there's a lot of emphasis on Black History Month. There's LGBT History Month, but then what about the rest of the year? It's not something that we can highlight over the course of a year. But talking about past, so Osei, a former Black young football player at Charlton, who, if I remember correctly, was against Arsenal. Was that your debut, Osei, or was that just another game? But in your opinion, I mean, Black History Month, why is it important in football?
As Troy just mentioned, this one out of many in a long time is so important, because there's been so much negativity in the world. There's been so much outpouring of emotion from Black people, white people, all over the world about the treatment of Black people throughout the ages. And if you're a young person growing up right now, especially a young Black person, you might have the perception that to be young and Black in this world is almost like a death sentence. With the George Floyd incident, with lack of opportunities, people are growing up feeling like this. So Black History Month is an opportunity to celebrate the best of what Black people have to offer. Most people, under their own volition, are not going to go and research about achievement of even people who look like them. you know, the reason why there's a national curriculum is because people probably won't go and find out about British heritage if left to their own devices. Most people won't do that. So you provide a curriculum, or you provide a piece of learning for people to learn about particular things. The game is saying that it cares about its Black players. The game is saying that it cares about Black people. So what better way to highlight that than during Black History Month? Now, of course, it shouldn't end after the month is finished. But as a gesture, as a starting point, it does provide a focus for a period of time for people to learn things that they would not normally, as I said, they would not normally necessarily go out of their way to find out and learn about. So I think it does have its place. For somebody like me, I don't necessarily get too involved with the Black History Month activities, but that's only because of the way that I was brought up to go and be studious, to go and find things out for myself, to understand the positive side of Black history. The tokenistic nature of Black History Month can be problematic. Every single year I get a ton of emails from people that want to do something for Black History Month in the last minute, and all they want to talk about is racism. Black people are more than just racism. Black people have as rich a history as everybody else, have made as many contributions to the world as everybody else. So if you are going to mark Black History Month, I think it's important to not relegate us to struggling and fighting and trying to fight our way up from the bottom, because that's not who we are. That's part of our story, but it's nowhere near our whole story. So for me, Black History Month has got a very important role in telling far more positive stories and not being lazy and relegating it to slavery, Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King.
Thank you very much, I say. Rodney, how about yourself? I mean, why do we need Black History Month in football?
Yeah, do you know something? I'm just going to follow on from what Osei said in terms of it's much more than trauma. You know, it is about, you know, highlighting the good, highlighting those that have gone before the current crop of players or who are currently in the game in terms of what they deliver on the pitch and how they are seen within their communities as role models. You know, when you hear the question about it, when you ask the question, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, whenever we talk about another genre or area like film or TV, no one ever says, why do we have the BAFTAs? No one ever says, why do we have the Oscars? We have those things to celebrate the individuals within that field. Black History Month, like Troy said, I don't really get it because it's pigeonholed within 30 days, but this one is important. It is a vehicle for good or bad, which we can look at and use and talk about the good things that Black football players, male and female, have done within the history of the game. Call it a month-long celebration, call it a month-long carnival, call it whatever you want. But it's really key that when we talk about why do we need it, we understand that when you talk about groups that have been pushed to the extremities of any society, that then they will clamor to be seen and heard for the good things that they do. So as much as I agree with what Troy is saying, I don't agree with the time slot. I understand why it's there. But there is the flip side as well, that when you have organizations that only want to look at the slave trade or the racism, and you know, I've worked in education for 30 years. I've seen it firsthand. What comes around, you know, let's talk about Rosa Parks. Has anyone got an assembly? Can you find a PowerPoint? Much more than that. Much more than that. So, you know, I see it as a vital period in history for everyone to be engaged in. It isn't just about Black people. It's about people. You know, we're just Black, or they happen to be Black. So there is unfortunately a need for it to be used or pigeonholed, but at the same time, it shouldn't be pigeonholed because it should be discussed at any point in the year. It doesn't stop me sitting down with anyone and talking about the brilliance of Lionel Messi or Ronaldo for the rest of the year, you know. But if it's Black history, we've got pigeonholed it, you know, 30 days. And for some of us, we have to stomach it and swallow it. But for others, it's very important. So we need to kind of be balanced in terms of understanding the good and the bad that comes with the vehicle itself.
Thank you, Rodney. Natalie, your thoughts on Black History Month and maybe its involvement in football?
Yeah, well, I agree with what everyone's sort of saying. You know, it should be all year round kind of thing, celebration. You shouldn't just have to sort of talk about it in this month. But myself, coming as a fan's perspective, I mean, I know it's COVID, no one's in ground, but a lot of things as a fan, you're just thinking about that Saturday, or that Sunday. Whereas I think, in a way, this helps to highlight it and helps to sort of make people think more. I think it should be talked about all the time. And I agree with what Ossie's saying. Then people, you know, I've had Radio Manchester, we want to get you on some, you know, and I think, well, why do you just want to get me on now? I can talk about football all the time. I can talk about more than just my experience. I've got positive experiences, mostly as a black female going and watching football, following Man United. It's all, you know, positive things. There are little things, but, you know, for me, football is such a positive thing. And I think so many people love football that it's important that we have Black History Month in football, talking about positive fans, role models, people like Troy, people like Ossie, but, you know, the players that are playing as well. You know, and I think that's why it's important for football to definitely talk about it, because instead of just thinking about the game next week, you know, organisations like Sky talking about it, BBC, and they should be forced to talk about it more often. But the fact that they have, you know, they put more faces out there, it's good for black people to push, you know, our struggles, our voices forward. And I think, you know, this is what this is about, for people to educate themselves. So hopefully we see more things across the year now with the time that we're in.
Thank you. Well, no, great answers to the question, which I knew there would be. And obviously there's that personal experience that you'll have and your opinions. And I think that's really important with that honesty as well, because this is something that we will be at Fans for Diversity. We kick it out on the FSA. This is something we discuss and do every single day, every single week and all year.